After 21 hours and 19 minutes standing on his feet, Ted Cruz finally sat down. Much of his talkathon was against Obamacare.
Because it's a red herring being used to move the country to single-payer system.
But the memorable moments were those that veered off topic.
I wanted to take an opportunity that I don't usually have when I'm in D.C., to read them a couple of bedtime stories. I do so like green eggs and ham.
He tried his own Dr. Seuss.
They did not like Obamacare in a box with a fox, in a house, or with a mouse.
This was all about firing up the grassroots. He encouraged supporters to tweet him.
Obamacare. Ain't nobody got time for that. All caps and 3 exclamation marks. Make D.C. listen.
Most Republicans oppose Cruz's mission, trying to defund Obamacare on a must-pass spending bill. They worry it could cause a government shutdown and they'd get the blame. And they worried it's mired in process that's hard to explain. Case in point, in the end, he joined all senators in voting for a procedural measure he seemed to argue against. By 1 a.m., he got punchy.
Just a few words of wisdom from Duck Dynasty. Redneck rule number 1. Most things can be fixed with duct tape and extension cords.
When the sun came up, even more so.
We'll confess that phrase, a rebellion against oppression, conjured up to me the Rebel Alliance fighting against the empire. Mike Lee, I am your father.
How do you feel standing there for so long?
Dana, to be honest, I feel terrific. I feel energized that the American people had an opportunity, I hope, to engage in this debate and to have their voice heard.
But back on the floor, Cruz was scorched from all sides. Democrats,
for lack of a better way of describing this, it has been a big waste of time.
And Republicans. John McCain was furious that Cruz likened GOP detractors to Britain's Neville Chamberlain in World War II, who argued for appeasement of Adolf Hitler.
Let's appease them. Why? Because it can't be done. We can't possibly stand against them. And in America, there were voices that listened to that.
McCain said that insulted Americans who fought.
Amongst them were my father and grandfather. I do not agree with that comparison. I think it's wrong. And I think it's a disservice to those who stood up and shouted at the top of their lungs that we cannot appease.
Dissension within the party, so seriousness, also obviously a lot of humor, and as you said, he felt energized. I'm sure he hit a wall soon after saying that when the truth hit him. But Dana, what happens now?
What happens now is the process has to finish in the Senate. Now, you saw that the vote was 100-0 today, so Senator Cruz voted for something he was saying for 21 hours he was against. Presumably, he is going to vote against it in the next procedural measure. Again, if this is confusing, that's exactly why Republican leaders hate this strategy. But so at the end of the day, we expect this to finish up in the Senate probably on Friday. That puts the shutdown hot potato back in the House's plate for about 3 days before the deadline. I'm hearing over there from sources that they plan to change it a little bit, send it back to the Senate. So it is going to go right down to the wire.
I mean, right down to the wire, and obviously just, an embarrassment for everybody involved on all sides. I mean, Dana, as you know, we've been counting the days since America lost that AAA rating, 781 days, just for those of you keeping track. But I mean, Dana, after the shutdown fiasco, the risk of a major crisis actually gets bigger, shutdown or not, right?
Absolutely. The Treasury Secretary said today that the United States will reach that debt ceiling October 17th. That is just around the corner. And Aaron, even as early as this Saturday, that's right, this weekend, the House is likely to work on some kind of bill that would raise the debt ceiling for a year. But guess what? They're going to attach all kinds of things on it. Obamacare, delaying that for a year is a possibility. Passing that Keystone pipeline is a possibility. Dealing with tax reform, at least putting instructions on there. And even today at the White House, the spokesman there, Jay Carney, said, you know what, we're not negotiating on the debt ceiling. So right there, you're already going to have a collision course on, just as you said, something that is perhaps even more problematic, dire for the economy than this government shutdown.
Absolutely. All right, our Dana Bash, the only one who understands all of this and puts it into English for us. Thank you, Dana.